Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could stay standing for a minute, just like to have a brief moment of silence for the Whitman and the Weymouth family that were just involved in that tragic accident the other day, please. Great, thank you. All right, agenda adjustments. There will be no agenda adjustments, and this meeting is being videotaped. And we'll move on to public comment. Public comment? Sure. Just take your name and the town you're from, please.
Hi, Paul Varley, Whitman. So I'm here today because apparently none of you guys heard me or don't listen or whatever it is. So I agreed to have a meeting with the school last month, as long as it's recorded. And at the end of the meeting, I saw from the recording later that the school agreed, or the super agreed to it, to then, when I emailed him to have the meeting, it was denied to be recorded. So I don't know why it's being said here in front of this camera that you will allow to have a meeting recorded, but then when push comes to shove, things change. You don't want to be recorded and anything on file that, you know, you have to stand up for. Because all the things I'm trying to push here is things to help out the kids and the safety of the kids. And the reason why I want these things recorded is because the school has continually lied over and over again. Even with the hockey helmets, I started that at the beginning of the season. I mentioned that there's a few kids that I could clearly see at the game not wearing proper hockey helmets. So I came here, I mentioned it here, I emailed the principal that's also the athletic director, the coach, and the person in charge of the league, and those emails went around. A few days later, the helmets were inspected, but only for the visible sticker, but not the cages. And I was told that every helmet is in full compliance, which it does not. And then I emailed again stating this, and that by the rules of HECC, which is the rules they got to follow, those helmets don't follow the rules, because the sticker is either gone or you can't read it. That makes the helmet illegible or ineligible to be played with in a hockey game, because these kids are checking. So I mentioned that again, and nothing really seemed to come of it. No one really seemed to care. And then the poor kid with North Quincy, he got checked in a legal game, legal hit. He ended up having to go to the hospital, couldn't move his legs, all this other stuff. Then all of a sudden, now they're gonna actually try to enforce the hockey helmets. And I was told that, okay, we checked the helmets, there's 4 kids that aren't compliant. Well, no new check was done. This is going off of a previous check that was a month prior. So they already knew the helmets that were legal to play with. So, and again, they didn't check the cages. I mentioned that as well. Cages need to be checked as well. If there's any dents, dings, or any of the welds are gone, that makes that helmet no longer viable, and those weren't checked. So then they put out an email, or however they contacted the parents of the kids that had bad helmets, stating that they had the next day to get them hockey helmets, which kind of stinks that you have a 1-day notice on that, but they need proper hockey helmets. That's first in everything you need to start with. But then after that, I saw a couple of them now had hockey helmets, but then a couple on that list did not go out and get new hockey helmets. And I don't know if the school thinks they're not liable if these kids get hurt in those helmets because they sent an email or however they contacted the parents. That's still on the school. Those kids are playing in the school's colors, so that means they're the school's responsibility, and that's the first thing that needs to be done and addressed, is the kids have to have a safe environment. And I don't understand why the school has to lie to me, tell me that this is the rules, to then later, okay, everything's different now, when the rules are clear, very clear. If the sticker isn't there, ineligible. If you can't read the sticker, ineligible. And you have to check the cages. The same rules apply to the cage. You have to check for damages, and you have to check for it has its own sticker. It's very clear. So that's why it has to be a recorded meeting, because even my meetings before, lies kept coming up. Each meeting, something new changed. Something else changed here, there, and someone has to go on record for something, because this is the school. Like, these kids come here. I don't understand why a recorded meeting, when it comes to concerns of kids, is out of the realm of possibility here. I don't understand. Does the school care about the kids? Is the school willing to go on record caring for the kids, or is this just a whole sham? I don't get this. It literally was the entire hockey season, and there's still kids that didn't have helmets and when this is all brought up at game one, day one, game one. So I don't understand, and it's shameful. I don't get this. So have a good night.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on that, the helmets were checked, and, it was brought up to Mr. Hickey and Mr. Aubrey himself, all those helmets were checked, and they were all in compliance, so, and it can go on record that the school does care about the kids, if we didn't care about the kids, I don't think we'd all be here tonight, having this meeting, so, we know the kids are safe, and they're out there safe, and, Mr. Hickey, Mr. Aubrey, and their team are all doing their job to make sure the school's safe for the kids, so, and if there are things that this gentleman wants to bring up and meet with Mr. Hickey, or Mr. Aubrey, they're willing to meet with him, and if they don't want to have a recorded meeting, then it doesn't have to be a recorded meeting, it can be a meeting where they sit and discuss everything. And if they want to have a meeting with the school committee, with myself or any of you gentlemen, that's within our jurisdiction, the superintendent, the policy or the budget, we'd be more than happy to sit down with him as well. So that's all I have to say about that, and thank you.
I'd like to comment on that, Chris, as well. No, he's got a thorn in his saddle somewhere. He spent 4 years here as a student. We never heard of him. He was conceived after I was a school committee member, so he's fairly young here. I don't know what his trade was, and I really don't care. But I don't know whether you all guys have read it or not, but it came out today. Another school system had the same problem, and Tom and I have already chatted, and I was going to make a recommendation tonight, but after talking to Tom, I'm going to hold off to do away with public comment. It's not required by law. Public comment. And it's up to the chair to recognize somebody. We're here, this is a school committee meeting, to hear about how the administrator is running and ask us if we can do anything to meet the demands for education and supply the money for it. And we don't need thorns like this, but I'm going to suggest that you do away with that part of the agenda. It was Rockland's idea that did it, and that's why I hesitated tonight, because I'd like to have him here when we take it off the agenda, but take it off the agenda and go back to like we did before, request for action. You don't recognize anybody, we don't have to.
Well, I think that's something to remove it off the agenda. We could add it to the agenda and have a discussion when we're all here as a full committee. And, Mr. Farley is from the public, and the public can come in here anytime they want to these meetings, and they can voice their opinions on stuff.
No, they don't. No, that's where it.
I don't want to get into a big discussion about this.
They're welcome to come through the meetings. That's not a problem. It's recognized and we speak. You don't have to do that.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the approve the minutes. I ask for a motion to approve the set minutes, excuse me. Motion made by Situate, second by Cohasset. Sorry, had to read it. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Now we'll move on. Jim, to the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your package tonight, you have the Treasurer's Report through the end of January 31st, 2020. On the cover this week, this month, the cosmetology program hosted a bunch of the students from the Cardinal Cushing Center down the street in Hanover, and for a day of beauty with the cosmetology. So there's a lot of pictures of some of the young adults that attend Cardinal Cushing, getting their hair done up and facials and nails done and so forth. So I think it's again, it's something that may not be out in the press as well, but it's something that the cosmetology program should be commended for their reaching out to the community for various activities such as this. Again, I posted 3 pictures on the cover. There are many more. And again, the smiles on the girls' faces for the Cardinal Cushing Center was very bright. Page 2 has our financial position as of the. Got a shaky table here. Pinch my elbow at some point. I'll move on. Don't save me.
It's like going to the restaurant.
Save me a Band-Aid.
No fighting.
So as of, our total cash balance is at the end of January 31st, $6.1 million. Again, stabilization, a little over $1.3 million. As I mentioned last month, we opened up another bank account at the Rockland Federal Credit Union. So again, community-based school, community-based savings accounts where we have money at Northeastern Savings Bank, the new bank that's located in Whitman.
Nice change.
Thank you. And, Rockland Credit Union, Pilgrim Bank, which is a Cohasset-based bank that is now part of Abington Bank, which we also have money in Abington Bank, and Cape Cod Cooperative, who's not in our district, but they came by with some great rates, so we put some money over there just to get some return on our investment. We also have money in a PayPal account. Again, over the last 5 years, we've sort of come into the 21st century with the automation of collecting, using credit cards and using PayPal and generating all sorts of different ways to make it easier for the consumers to pay their bills and so forth. And the PayPal account is used through the website for people. A lot of registrations for our evening school are done through the website and the PayPal account. So it's growing, and we're a lot of money flows through that, which makes it easier for the consumers and the general public. Our OPEB account, again, which continues to grow, $678,000 at the end of January. Revenues for the month of January on page 3, again, it's not a billable month, so therefore the only collections we really see are our monthly Chapter 70 funding of $370,000. Again, down below we have a listing of all the out-of-district schools that we deal with, and we did bill their first half of the year, and we collected everything, and we just billed their second half the 1st of February. So we'll be receiving funds from the out-of-district schools for their second half tuition over the next few weeks. And finally, our expenditures. Going to need excuse for this one. Small numbers. Overall, the spending for the month is about $1.2 million. Again, large numbers payroll. It was a 5 payroll cycle, one of those 2 months that the teachers do dances down the hallway. When they receive that 3rd paycheck in the cycle, it happens twice a year, and January was a good month when it's cold and dreary outside. They get an extra paycheck, so everybody's happy. So that's $941,000. Normally it's in the $600,000-$700,000 range for payroll. So that's the largest expense. Everything else is going well. Janine Anderson, our new accounts payable purchasing person, is doing a fabulous job learning the ropes, interacting and learning the names of the 142 people that come through requesting bills to be paid and so forth. So she's doing a great job. And again, I'd like to commend Tricia Murphy as well, because Tricia's been a backup over the years with Sylvia, and Tricia's been very, very good in helping along the way with Janine with questions and more systems and software questions, because it is a quirky system that we deal with. So Tricia and Janine are doing a great job. And we'd also like to thank Sylvia as well, as even though Sylvia retired, she's available. She's been around to answer questions for Janine as they pop up with various things that only happen once or twice a year. And Sylvia's also going to be available if there's some bidding process that we need to go out for she's gonna lend a hand with helping us on that too. So again, the business department's running well and everything's going well, so.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Motion made by Hanover, second by Whitman. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Jim?
In your package, actually, I handed it out tonight, a budget transfer. The school's undergoing a security system increase, it's going through a lot of upgrades in the security, so there has been a little bit of overspending on the security line item, so we're requesting that $6,000 be added into the security line item for the budget and taken out of health insurance. Again, when we set the budget for health insurance last February, we were estimating rate increases and so forth, and there's a little bit of wiggle room in the health insurance line item for this year, so we're just gonna move some money out of the health insurance and into the security line item.
Motion to approve. Motion made by Whitman, second by Situate. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Jim, do you have anything else?
Just to update the audit, in constant contact with Bruce Nolan. We have Parker Elmore, who's our Odyssey Advisors actuarial person that we've engaged, and he's working on he requested just this past weekend some more documents from us to finish his actuarial, number crunching and so forth. So once that's done, that'll be included in the audit. I've talked to Bruce and his staff about possibly a March meeting. If, depending upon the timing, then it would definitely be an April meeting for their attendance to present the audit, so.
Thank you. Chairman, nothing from the chairman tonight. Move on to subcommittee. The policy review subcommittee, the committee has met to review our surplus policy and provided hearing as a first reading. We will listen for a second reading and discuss at a further meeting. Now we'll move on to Superintendent Director, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very brief report tonight. Regarding fiscal 21 budget, later in the agenda, there would be a vote to certify the budget officially. Since we last met, Jack and I were able to go and present the budget to both the Situate Board of Selectmen and Situate Advisory. And then Tom and Jim and I were also on February 12th in front of Abington's Finance Committee. And Bob and I are scheduled to go to Norwell's Advisory Committee on March 12th. So this is the time of year to be talking in greater detail with our communities. All of the communities are aware, they've been provided all the information, and we stand ready to answer questions and attend meetings, multiple meetings if necessary, to explain. With regard, it's a smaller matter for our district. Our Chapter 70 money went up about $16,000. And you know from seeing in the media regarding the Student Opportunity Act, this piece of legislation infused a lot of money statewide. Our Chapter 70 increase was modest. I mentioned at the last meeting that I would be bringing to you next month a 3-year improvement plan that the law requires all districts to do, regardless of the amount of money that they're bringing. In the last few weeks, DESE has done a good job of providing some technical guidance on this. So what they're saying to school districts like ours that are not necessarily getting a lot of extra money through this phase-in is essentially to document some of the initiatives that we're doing that we would want to continue to sustain. No one is suggesting that with $16,000 there's going to be a new curriculum or personnel or anything of that sort. So the plan that I bring to you for the March meeting, we will vet out through our normal stakeholder groups, parents association, school council, and then bring to you. But it'll essentially comply with the law and highlight some of the things I think we're doing a great job with that DESE says is a permissible use of these funds. So that's a small piece of the fiscal 21 budget, but by statute, there has to be a plan approved by the governing board by April 1st, which is why it'll be a March agenda item. MSBA statement of interest. With your vote a little while ago approving those minutes, Mr. Chairman will, for the 6th time, sign the minutes officially and date them, and Susan will upload that to the MSBA portal, thus completing the statement of interest process that you had approved with that lengthy motion from the last meeting. And this is the core program. We wait until December to hear updates on that. And finally, I'll end by turning it over to Mr. Aubrey to provide some administrative updates.
I have a question, Tom,
Yes, Dan?
with the MSBA, sorry.
It's okay.
Reading in the papers how they're saying that there isn't enough vocational school systems in Massachusetts to deal with the amount of students that want to get into it. Us being one, why is the state turning around saying they will not okay our building? I mean, if we put a second floor on or another building, we could take 50, 100 more students maybe.
Yes.
And they're denying us when they're saying on one hand, there's not enough vocational schools. There are some areas that have no vocational schools available to them. Not even like, at least we're taking in out of district students. But there are some districts that the kids, there is no place for them to go. That being said, you would think the state would say, well, if this is the case, and there are schools that are looking for an enlargement to, get more students.
Yes.
Why wouldn't they approve it?
The technical answer, the technical answer is that MSBA, under the statute that governs this agency, has a series of priorities. When we submit our statement of interest, there are 9 possible reasons that you would want to be invited into the program. Reason number 1 on the list is, my words, imminent health and safety issue. And what they're saying is that schools that are being admitted into the program, invited in to begin the 4 or 5 year process.
Right.
I can't say I've looked at all of the statements of interest, but those are the priority projects first. So we have a well-maintained building. We're too small. We could fulfill our mission even bigger and better, as you were just describing. But with their limited resources, they're saying that health and safety issues are coming first. So with 61 applications this round, you've heard me say this before, the numbers vary. They invited, I think the number was 11. There isn't enough money in that system in order for them to attend. Now, there's no, as you've heard me say, there's no seniority list, there's no, oh, you've applied 5 times. It's Groundhog Day. It's you submit again, you see who else submits, the same exact process. And there will come a point where we certainly don't want to have to be one of the schools that has to report failing systems. But as we've talked about, we ourselves are at the point where the capital asks of our communities are getting to beyond the $100,000 range. They're getting to we need to replace roof, windows, and metal panels in this wing from 1992 with a cost escalator cost of about $2 million. We want to sprinkle the 1962 addition. We have original 1962 infrastructure. We have a motor control panel in our boiler room that looks like from some B science movie from the 1950s. These are things that we know we need to replace. We will continue to maintain what we have, but essentially, Dan, I think that what separates those that are admitted has a lot to do with imminent health and safety. But I will say that one of the items that we as a committee, as a school community, should be talking about, I had a conversation earlier today with the engineering firm that we've been working with, and all along we have been under the premise that we could not add anything onto the building without having to address all code updates throughout the building. But there is actually a narrow opportunity. It's essentially, the formula is roughly something like you could invest in construction costs not to exceed 30% of the assessed value of the property and not have to bring everything up to code. And then there are other expenses that are exempt. So what I'm going to do some more research on and bring back to you for discussion is the idea that if in fact these numbers held out, and I could come back to you and say, we could put on I'm going to use the word modest, at $500 a square foot for new construction,
Yeah.
and a $19 million assessed building, which is 30% of that is about $6 million. And if we need $2 million to do roof, windows, and metal panels, what I'm asking myself is, what would $4 million get us? And the answer is probably going to, the answer will underwhelm us compared to what DRA did for us for an analysis. but I would at least want to raise the awareness of our communities and inform us. So my conversation with the engineer earlier today was, I'd like to talk more about taking the visioning that you did for us back in late 17, early 18, and begin to talk more in a more targeted way, that if we were going to do something, and it was going to have to be on our own dime, our communities, if we're going to go out to our communities and say, we need a new roof and windows, we can pay for a portion of it, and we need your help with the rest, I'd like to also be able to bring you a recommendation that if we went for more than that, we'd have a very clear rationale, so that we're not going to our communities on a regular basis looking to authorize debt. It's such a rare occurrence for us that I would want to make sure that we think a little bit bigger, a little bit broader. If those facts pan out, if they don't, we'll be back to where we were, which is you can't really add on, we just have to make the best of the space we have.
Which we're saying to the state, you know, we know what you're looking for, I'm sorry, you're not allowing us to get it.
What the state is saying in response through some other funding sources is that they want our schools to function 16 to 18 hours a day. And that does serve a workforce development purpose, there's no doubt about it. The latest initiative, which you may have seen in some recent publications around the State of the State address, talk about schools like ours, or schools with Chapter 74 programs operating in 3 shifts. You have your Cadillac programs during the day with the most contact time in an integrated setting, our day school program, the one, our bread and butter. And then to begin to build programs where you could have immediately after school programs for a high school age population that might run between 2 to 5 p.m. And then a third shift or an after dark program. That is all very promising, and it will address some workforce development needs. One of the biggest challenges that I hear about statewide for schools that, and including us looking to embark on this, is a lack of qualified instructors. It is very difficult to ask a full-time day teacher to then also do this at night. What we want is, we want to be able to do all of the above.
Right.
And we want more space for our day program. And that is obviously our biggest ask.
I just think
of
the
all.
state's talking out of both sides of their mouth. They want more vocational schools, but yet they will not approve us to enlarge us because of the fact that we're turning kids away, students away, because we don't have the room. Just imagine if we had the room for another 50 to 100 students.
Yep.
You know, Dan, it's the same thing. Many years ago, we had the afternoon program. Were you here then, Tom?
Many years ago.
Yeah. And what the sending schools sent to us was their rejects that they used to send to us for regular education. And matter of fact, Kenny Thayer was one of them. He was sent to the auto shop from Cohasset. And we had a lot of those. And the kids didn't follow the trade, for one thing. And again, it worked out to be a cash cow for the instructors, because with the unions, it was overtime that they had to teach, and they didn't give their all to it like the regular day school. And it was a flop, but it cost us a lot of money, and we had a lot of kids in it. A lot of them were the handicapped kids that couldn't get in, and they couldn't get jobs afterwards. But the Governor Baker, he's going around, I get the daily worksheets from all these buckaroos.
Mass Association of School Committees puts out a daily brief. One of the biggest game changers for this round, it seems like it's an idea that's being refreshed, is transportation.
Yeah.
How do you get kids so if there are children that aren't coming here full-time and they wanted to access some of our specialized training, transportation could be a deal breaker. And now one of the things policy-wise that they're changing in terms of the use of some of these Career Technical Institute funds is for transporting kids. That's a big hurdle that if we could overcome that, we could be a player in that as well.
It's
Great.
But that's all in next budget anyway.
I
Baker's out there selling it now, but we gotta wait to see if that money's gonna be there in July anyway.
Right.
Maybe there could be bonding outside of the Chapter 70 process, outside of the MSBA process, an economic development bill perhaps, where there was some bond money if that was available. There are other avenues. New Jersey, I think it was a year and a half ago, actually had a statewide ballot, which they bonded money for construction and renovation of what I think they call county vocational schools. That may be another avenue for brick and mortar expansion. The state made a huge investment in the 60s and 70s, massive amounts of money for reimbursing our local communities. And what members of this committee have certainly been saying in the last several years is, maybe it's time for that approach again. Yeah.
Right, I mean, kids are looking to get to vocational schools.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
It's okay.
Mr. Aubrey?
So I'm wearing many hats tonight. I'm Miss Ingram, the student body advisor, and I'm Miss Ballner. So I'm going to start off being Mr. Aubrey, the principal and acting athletic director. I would like to address some comments that were made in the public session today. In fact, helmets in the hockey team were checked multiple times, 3 to be exact, separate for the helmet and separate for the face guards, to make sure that they had the stickers they required and fit the NECC rule. This was done by 3 different staff members, including one of our acting athletic directors. I thank Chairman Amico for his support and for the support from Mr. Clark, Mr. Hernan, and the coaches of the hockey team who have been very forthcoming in helping us, making sure that we are doing what we need to do to make sure, in fact, our students are safe every day they hit the ice. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so moving on with other things. Gonna do a rundown. It's the middle of the year. It's what I call the bread and butter time. We got between February and April vacation. We're gonna make a lot of hay. So here we go. The Robotics Club advisors, Mr. Shaw and Mr. Gentile, have started they have actually 2 teams running this year. They have so many interested players and people involved. So they are starting out. They did their first competition about 2 weeks ago. This was a precursor competition, like get your feet wet, see what the competition requirements are, get used to operating your robot, look at other people's robots, maybe steal an idea or 2. So they are in the process of doing that right now. The math team has also begun. They will begin their using their mathematical muscles. They will start competition starting in early March. They do a number of 3 or 4 different ones throughout the South Shore. Pamela Walsh, who's one of our extraordinary math teachers, oversees this group, and she takes them out to different ones, vocational and non-vocational tournaments that they have for the Math League. Drama Club is doing Clue this year, so you get to go find out who did it. Was it Miss Scarlett? Was it Professor Plum? That's going to happen the first weekend in April. That's April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Once again, they are doing a Saturday afternoon matinee, and that matinee will go to support our service learning trip to Houston, which I'll mention further on. Last Friday, before we left, we had our annual school community blood drive. We raised over 30 pints of blood, and barring a inadvertent smoke alarm, we might have had 33. We had to take 3 people off the table at the time. So they very supportive, students and staff giving up their time to do this, and our allied health students helping monitor the students. A good learning experience for them as well. Athletic teams, another fabulous season, really. Tomorrow night, the girls and the boys basketball teams play in the vocational tournament. We host 2 back-to-back. So at 6 o'clock, the girls are playing Old Colony. And at approximately, I'm going to say 7:45, the boys are going to tip off first Minuteman. The championship games will be held on Friday. And how the games work out, we might hold both championship games here on Friday as well. Both teams, incredible seasons, both Mayflower League small champions. First time we've had both of them win at the same time. That's fabulous. They're going to find out their state tournament picks early next week. Those don't get chosen until Saturday with the MIAA. Hockey team finished up a season that showed very strong growth. The record doesn't show it, 4-11-3, but over the last month they had a winning record. A lot of freshmen and a lot of sophomores on this team. They did graduate, or they are graduating, about a half a dozen seniors, but the rest of the team is really young. And I've been told in our class that wants to come in, we have a number of other hockey players. So the program is really looking up in the coming years. Wrestling team went to districts last weekend, took 6 wrestlers to district, 5 of them placed. That means 5 of them are going to the state tournament this weekend up in Wayland, so that's a great turnout. 6 go, 5 get to go to the state, so that's fabulous. A week from Friday, we're sending our students to the Skills USA District competition down in Greater New Bedford. So that'll be over 100 of our students from all of our programs going down to compete against other schools from the South Shore to see who gets to go to the state level and then hopefully on to the national level. Students are also preparing for MCAS, which is coming up in my lovely March to April kind of round. We have after-school tutoring and during-school tutoring that kids are taking extra out of their own time to do. Thank you to our staff once again, Allie Provost, Jess Matthews, Pam Walsh again, and Lisa Bellantoni and Minnie Doherty for overseeing those groups. And finally, Mr. Filano, who joins us once again, he is heading the service learning trip in April, taking 25 of our students and 5 chaperones. They are going once again to Houston because they felt that they had such a great experience with the people down there, and they were very appreciative of what the students were doing. They're going back. They recently held a meat raffle where they raised just under $2,000. And on March 13th, we're going to hold a trivia night. Once again, those proceeds are going to support the service learning trip. It's a very expensive event to put together, and so we try and get money from wherever we can. And so that'll be held at the Rockland Eagles at 7 p.m. on the 13th of March, which is Friday the 13th. Anybody have any questions about all those things I had to fill in for Sandy and Emily? Thank you, guys.
No. Thanks, Mr. Albrecht. Tom, you got anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman, the
Okay.
only other item is under new business, and I could speak to that if you'd like.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed fiscal '21 budget is for $14,406,191, and this would be the item on the agenda seeking the committee's certification of that budget amount.
Okay. Take a motion for
Need a
it.
motion?
Yep, motion made by Whitman,
Yeah.
second by Situate. Any discussion?
Yeah, the percentage of that is what, 4 point what?
4.09%.
Any other discussion?
Oh, yeah, one other question. Remember you were talking about
You already had a
transportation, there may be, sorry. There may be a change because of transportation, you want to look into it, did anything come of that?
So we're still going on the premise that we would have 80% reimbursement. So our the transportation portion of our town's assessments is pretty much flat.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Anything else? Any more
No,
discussion?
sorry.
No, don't be sorry, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Next, we'll move on to warrants.
Warrants, 14, 14BA, 15, 15A, 15B, 16, and 16X, totaling $1,330,386.97.
So moved.
By Whitman.
Second, whatever.
Second by Whitman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any requests for action?
One thing, just remember, I want to advertise the Taste of Whitman and Hanson be held at the VFW in Whitman. And South Shore Tech will probably have a booth there showing our students, what they can do as far as culinary arts, so.
When was
there's a lot
that
of
date?
places there.
What's the date?
That's the
I believe it's the 5th.
March 5th.
Yeah.
March
It's
5th.
a, day is it?
Where is it?
Thursday.
Where is it, Dan?
The VFW in Whitman.
Is the 5th a Thursday?
Is it
Yes.
5th or Thursday?
A Thursday, yeah.
Okay, a minute.
And students from our school who reside in Whitman and Hanson are eligible for scholarships, even though the engine behind all of this are some great folks that work with Dollars for Scholars for Whitman and Hanson. But students at our school who are from those towns could still apply for scholarships.
Great. Nice. Thanks, Dan. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
With all due
Motion
respect,
made by Whitman.
motion.
Second by Abington. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.